This is an abandoned train tunnel in Massachusetts. It's 1,100 feet long, straight through rock, and it's been abandoned since the 1950s. There are a lot of urban legends about this spot, so it made for a pretty unique explore. I actually visited this location with a local news crew, so if you'd like to go check that out, I'll put a link to the segment in the description below. So, how old is this tunnel and why was it abandoned? To answer that, we're going to have to go back in time. Hey everyone, and welcome to Boston around the turn of the 20th century. So glad you could make it. Now, at this time, Boston and the surrounding areas had a water problem. There was a combination of pollution and shortage of water from the growing population. The greater Boston area needed more of that H2O, so they came up with a solution. Construct a new water supply for the city. So here's Boston, and about 35 miles away is Clinton, where the new reservoir would be built, supplying all those happy people with fresh water. That's exactly what they did, with construction on the dam and reservoir starting in 1897. With a bunch of help from this little guy, I imagine, and apparently no help from any safety regulations. After 8 years of construction, the last stone in the dam was laid in 1905. And the end product is this, the Wachusett Reservoir. When this was filled in 1908, it was the largest public water supply reservoir in the world and the largest body of water in the state of Massachusetts. So, job well done, everyone. Yeah, there you go. But when the reservoir was being created, there was one little problem. When the land would be flooded, it would also bury miles of railroad tracks underwater. So, what the railroad company did was reroute the tracks, creating a 9-mile bypass to the north of the reservoir. The dam is right here, and this is the area we're going to focus on because that's where the tunnel is. And that's where the trestle was built leading to the tunnel. This is the foundation for the train trestle that leads to the tunnel being laid just downstream from the dam, very close by. The trestle was almost the same length as the tunnel itself. It was 917 feet long and 133 feet high, right across the Nashua River. Today, all that's left is the foundation. The trestle was torn down in 1975 after train service stopped, but it would have been really impressive to see in person crossing this river. Looking across the river where the trestle would have been, you can see the main event, the now abandoned Clinton train tunnel. Heading into the tunnel, it's a lot darker than I thought it would be. Within 50 feet of walking in, it's already noticeably darker, even on a bright day. While the dam was being constructed, the railway was being rerouted, and this tunnel was being dug out. Hundreds of workers used a combination of manpower and steam drills to dig out the 1,100-foot tunnel. In the summer of 1903, the first train passed through the tunnel, officially ending the 6-year project. Abandonment of this rail line began in the 1930s as other forms of transportation began to increase. Passenger service remained on this track until 1958. Shortly after, the tracks were removed, and now the tunnel sits empty and all alone, now abandoned for longer than it was in service. So one of the spooky urban legends about this tunnel is that the farther you go inside, the end still appears the same distance away, which after going end to end, I can say is pretty true. There's definitely a bit of an optical illusion going on here. On the tunnel's western side, which is where we are now, it's concrete lined for about 220 feet. And beyond that, the remainder is unlined bare rock with portals of large cut granite at both ends. So it ends up looking more like a cave than a train tunnel at this point.
Yeah, that's way cooler than the carved stone. See, I wonder how many I'm surprised that more isn't falling down.
Even on a clear day with no rain, there was still water pouring in through the ceiling and walls. And surprisingly, there really weren't too many sections of collapsed rock. This was the biggest one we found while going through.
The more you go in it gets more interesting.
I know. I wasn't expecting the impact of, switching from the carved stone to this exposed granite to be that big, because it really opens up in here. It's like walking through a cave.
It's actually, you find out it's more interesting than you even thought with the deeper you get into it.
You always find more.
Even though it looks like tight quarters, this section of the tunnel is still 22 feet high and 16 feet wide all the way through.
You like this tag right here? You're going to die. Straight up. I always love to see how high the taggers go. How high they're willing to climb. So far, this guy has the record.
One thing I absolutely did not anticipate was how windy and cold it would be in here. It's easily 20 degrees colder inside the tunnel with a steady breeze going through the entire time. It was about 15 or 20 degrees inside while we were shooting this. After what felt like a while, we got to the opposite end, where the granite transitions into another concrete archway. This part was flooded with about 8 inches of freezing water. As for the future of this tunnel, well, good news, this tunnel is still owned by Boston and Maine Railroad, but is under purchase and sale agreement with the Clinton Greenway Conservation Trust. So the plan is to convert it to a rail trail after the required tunnel repairs are completed. So while you can walk through it now, hopefully in the future you'll be able to do it a lot more comfortably. Thanks everyone for watching. Check out my channel or my website if you want to see more interesting abandoned places I visited.